is the Speak Your Peace podcast, a podcast for the people where we believe by speaking your truth, you can help others find their peace. I am your host, Kaleem Slayton, and I want to thank you for listening in. Be sure to find us on Instagram at _ Speak Your Peace. Let's go. Of Jersey. We're going to talk a little bit about his story, as well as what led to the homelessness, as well as what homelessness is like on the other side. Again, many times we always look from the outside looking in, but not necessarily knowing the internal and what leads to it, as well as what someone else is going through. So Jersey, let's start, from your childhood. You grew up in New York or Jersey?
I grew up in New Jersey.
Okay.
Siblings, I had 5 other siblings. My mom left 2 of them in South Carolina.
Okay.
As the older I got, the more I got introduced to the street life.
When was the first time you got introduced to the street life? How old were you?
I was 12 years old when I got introduced to the street life.
Okay.
I didn't have a father in my life.
Mm-hmm.
My mom was so young, so she did things to try to provide.
Mm-hmm.
Other men came in and tried to be a father, but they wasn't the father figure.
Mm-hmm.
So at the age of 12, I started reaching out to others for a proper way to go. So I was introduced to the streets. And as older I got, I started seeing a lot of crazy things in the streets of Asbury. I had a man that I used to look up to, that he was my godfather.
Mm-hmm.
But he was an alcoholic. And one day he was trying to cross the tracks, and I saw him get hit.
By a train?
By a train, yeah. And that started my mental life of disturbance.
What was that like when you saw? Like, what did you do?
It was just totally stunning, like, what just happened.
Mm-hmm.
You run away from it, and then you being a child, you're nosy,
mm-hmm.
and you wants to see what's really going on.
Mm-hmm.
So we used to play on the train track, and one day we found his finger.
Mm-hmm.
That was really weird.
And then this is after you didn't see him.
Yeah, this is like a week after they canvassed the tracks looking for more remains of the bodies.
Mm-hmm. And how old were you about this?
I was about 11, maybe 12.
Okay. When
this happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a cousin to come in and at the age of 13 introduced me to marijuana.
Okay.
This when things started getting real wild.
Doing that, when he introduced you, were you just smoking marijuana, or were you selling it?
I was just smoking marijuana at the time.
Okay.
Just smoking it. But I had seen a lot prior to that.
Mm-hmm.
My uncle used to come in, and he was a very abusive person.
Mm-hmm.
I seen him beat his own mama one time.
Mm-hmm.
I seen him tear a house up, shoot up people, cut people. At the age of 10, he took me to a bar called the Horseshoe Bar.
Okay.
And he was a guy he was looking for. He just pushed me behind him and just started shooting up the club. It's like, wow.
And this is in Jersey?
Yes, this in Jersey. My uncle something was wrong with him.
And did he left you in a car when it happened, or?
No, I got out the car.
Uh-huh.
And he pushed me behind him. He had a trench coat on.
Okay.
Pulled out the shotgun and just started shooting. Boom, boom, yeah. My uncle was something. He was a.
Now, did you know he was about to do that? Like when you were?
Nah, I didn't know. I was crazy about my uncle, so I always wanted to follow him.
Yeah.
Be around him. But he would do some dangerous things,
mm-hmm.
very dangerous things. Shoot at his ex-wife, girlfriends, all kind of stuff. Man, he was really dangerous. So the older I got, 17,
mm-hmm.
I was introduced to freebasing of cocaine.
Okay.
By one of my siblings.
Mm-hmm.
And it started downhill from there.
Okay.
Downhill. That's actually when...
Now, you were introduced by selling it or...
Using it.
Okay, using it.
Yes. So we used to take cocaine and cook it up. That's what they used to call freebasing back in the 70s and 80s.
Mm-hmm.
The crack cocaine didn't really come about until like the late 80s, early 90s.
Mm-hmm.
But I was only at the age of 17.
Okay.
I had 2 good jobs.
Mm-hmm.
I was working for the city and the state at the age of 17, 19. Instead of my sibling running me away, he introduced it to me, bringing me into it. Then that is actually the day that homelessness starts.
That's when homelessness started for you.
Yeah, that's when my homelessness life started at the age of 17.
And why would you say it started at 17?
Because you lose totally sight of what you're doing. The crack cocaine is so strong and manipulative to your mind to where it overtakes you if you have tragedy in your life. Because instead of you be looking for some people to talk to or looking for your mother to talk to, and they are so busy wrapped up in other things that they are doing, being a single parent. You know, being my mother was an alcoholic. She drank a lot. My mother did have other men come into the house, you know, things like that. But I love my mama. That was my rock. My mama was my rock. But I did things that where she just wasn't pleased. So she, you know, at the age of 18, I went to New York. Me and a couple other fellas went to New York. Seen a man get thrown off top of a building.
Well, you seen a man get thrown off the top of a building.
Yeah, in New York, like 17 stories.
How did that play out?
It was
like, were you just walking by? Like,
it was in a drug area.
Okay.
It was in a drug area. We had went into the apartments to get some weed and come back out.
Got you.
And then we sat down and rolled up the weed. We kept hearing a lot of commotion. And one of the guys I was with, he said, "Look up." We looked up, we seen somebody dangling. And he was like, "Man, that dude crazy, let him go." So he let him go. So we got up and walked away. By the time we can get probably 15 feet away, turn around, you can just see this splatter, brain busted, blood everywhere. It was a sight to see, though.
And how old were you?
I was like 17, 18 when that happened.
Okay.
Yeah. But I seen a man get pushed in front of a subway, going to New York a lot, buying the drugs. That's where we used to go to New York and get our drugs.
So you used to get drugs from New York and bring them back to Jersey?
Yeah.
Got you.
Seen a man get pushed in front of a subway. Seen people get thrown in front of cars being robbed. Seen a man just sitting at a bus stop in New York. Now the guy just walks up and just blows his head off.
Now, at what point did all this, like, did it start to, like, not even, like, bother you? Were you used to it? Or what did it, like...
After the first couple episodes, I became immune to seeing it. It didn't bother me in the physical, but maybe in the mentally it did.
Yeah.
Because I got worse into the drugs.
Yeah.
You know, but at a younger age, I was, I'm going to say, almost molested. It didn't go all the way through. He wasn't successful with it, but he did try. And it was hard to go to my mother and talk to her about it. So I turned to the drug life. And my brothers, we wasn't really close siblings. And it was just me and my sister for a while. 1975, my third oldest brother went back to South Carolina to stay. And then it was just me and my siblings. My sister, just me and her. We growed up in New Jersey. In 1993, I moved to South Carolina. That's when it became worse.
So you were still doing drugs when you left in 1993 to go to South Carolina?
Yeah.
Okay, and what prompted you to go to South Carolina?
My mom had moved. She had come into a good little piece of land, and so she wanted to move to South, be around one of my aunts that was raising my 2 other siblings. So we came, and I was on drugs real bad.
About how old were you then? 1993.
about 23.
And did your mom know you were on drugs at the time?
Yeah.
Oh, she did?
Yeah,
Okay.
My mom knew I was on drugs since I was 17.
Did she know what type of drugs?
Yeah.
Okay.
She knew. Because I had started wanting that cocaine, wanting that crack cocaine so bad, I started stealing from her.
Mm-hmm.
One night she was asleep.
Mm-hmm.
I went into the house.
Mm-hmm.
I took about $500 from her.
Mm-hmm.
And I went and just smoked it all up.
Mm-hmm.
My mom she was my world.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless of what I done, she never turned her back on me.
Mm-hmm.
Never.
Mm-hmm.
She never have. But those who don't know about that crack cocaine is very addictive.
Mm-hmm.
Very. A lot say it has a lot to do with the mind over the matter.
Mm-hmm.
But the addiction is so powerful that you want to quit.
Mm-hmm.
It's hard to quit.
Mm-hmm.
But I went to prison in 93 for...
So this is right soon as you get to South Carolina?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. It's like 3 months after I was here, maybe 4 months.
Okay.
My mama had came, bought a house.
Okay.
Set it up, set the trailer up, and she wouldn't leave me in the house, so I had nowhere to go.
Gotcha.
My brothers wouldn't fool with me because of the drug addiction.
Right.
So I broke into my mama's house and took some appliances out of there.
Mm-hmm.
TV, microwave, and I sold to a drug dealer.
Mm-hmm.
My brother helped the police track me down.
Okay.
They gave me time. They was going to give me a boot camp sentence.
What's a boot camp sentence?
90 days boot camp, like a military boot camp.
Okay.
I refused that. I told the judge I need to go to prison so I could learn a lesson.
Mm-hmm.
The wrong thing to say.
Okay.
The wrong thing. When I got to prison in 93, it was just like being at a college campus. Street clothes, cash money. Only thing where everything was there.
You said everything?
Everything.
Like whatever you needed.
Whatever you wanted. Crack cocaine, heroin, marijuana, needles, women. Even the CO was doing a little prostitute.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you had street money. We dress as we dress now.
Right.
That was before they changed the policy, but yeah, I was like, wow, this ain't bad.
Uh-huh.
I got messed up in there.
But it was hard to learn a lesson in there with all that.
Yeah, it was very hard to learn a lesson. You know, because if you got out today, shoot, 2 or 3 weeks later, you're right back because you felt more comfortable before they started making changes in the South Carolina rules of the penitentiary.
Right.
You know, I got out in 95. Yeah, I got out in 95. July 22nd of 2000, I got out.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't looked back since.
So that was 7 years.
No.
So you went out. Oh, you got out. So you went out in 95. You got out in 95.
I went to prison in 93. I made parole in 95.
Okay, got you.
I got married less than 30 days I was out.
Okay.
Yeah, I got
Now
married.
were you clean? Were you doing better with the drugs when you got out?
No.
Because it was in there.
Yeah.
Mm.
It was there. I went to a rehab. I was forced to go to a rehab in 95.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, when an addict is being forced to do something, they're not going to take it to the heart. They got to find it within themselves to really want to quit.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I to this day, I still struggle with it.
Mm-hmm.
I still struggle on a constant battle.
So it's an everyday thing. It doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away. It don't. But I moved to Greenville. I got out of prison.
Mm-hmm.
95. I got into some more trouble. I went on the run.
Mm-hmm.
They come to New Jersey and got me.
Mm-hmm.
Brought me back. 96. I was locked down from '96 to February the 4th of 2000 when I came home. It was over 21 years ago.
Okay.
So far, so good. I can say that. But the drug addiction ain't never went nowhere. Drug addiction never went nowhere. It's there. You know, for one time I tried to run away. I run every day from it. I had gotten married. I got married. That I thought that would be something to help me escape the drug addiction. But a lot of aggravation, aggravation and worryiness and argue pushes you away. So it pushes me. I just ran from it. I ran from the wife. I ran from the house.
Gotcha.
I run to the streets. I felt like I found more peace in the street than I did at home.
What do you think what would you say, like, what kind of peace did the street, like, give you? Was it like comfort or?
To me, it was more of a comfort of understanding.
Okay.
But even though the drugs was there, you know, I like to hang around a lot of older guys. So you can go to them and talk and drink.
Gotcha.
But alcohol triggers an addict addiction.
So you went for them for comfort, to just vent, drink, you know, relax. Kind of what guys do, you know, when they end up with their boys. Just they can be real candid, real honest, because they know their boy's not going to judge them, and just release.
Yeah, exactly.
However, alcohol was like a gateway to, like,
the drug addiction. Yeah. So I left my wife. Still drugging. Been with a woman now for 22 years. She would never knew I was an addict if it wasn't for one of my siblings.
Okay.
Who told her, because when we first got together, I found that peace that I was looking for.
So you feel like this whole time you was chasing to fill a void somewhere.
Exactly. And to me, I felt like she felt that void because the whole time that I could be with her, I don't use. And that made me feel good. But now, as the years has gone, it's not there no more. So now I'm looking elsewhere and finding myself running back to the streets. And that's not what I want, because I'm going to fall again.
Now, what would you say? So you are currently experiencing homelessness. What's that like? Because I know a lot of times we see, you know, homeless individuals, you know, panhandling or asking for money or something like that. But that's not everybody's, like, story. And sometimes we can only see it from the outside. But what goes on, like, you know, behind the scenes, like that we don't know about? You know, so again, what's the shelter life like? So you're first in the shelter in South Carolina, correct?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
so what's that like?
Dangerous.
Dangerous.
Yeah, it's dangerous because you have, those shelters have murderers, rapists. You don't know what type of people is in there. So you have to always be aware of your surroundings and others. And be careful what you do and how you do it, because somebody's always watching you. You know, I was in Greenville. A man was asleep. Another guy just attacked him and killed him in the shelter. You know, because you don't know what type of people that comes in them shelters. You really don't. You don't know them from Adam and Eve. Everybody ain't gonna give you a true detail of who they are and what they are.
So anybody, they can be anybody, and when you walk in the shelter, you can be anybody.
Anybody.
You
can
know.
be anybody. And once you get behind them doors, you really see what goes on. You see a lot of homeless people that are very, very nasty, very disrespectful, not caring, and likes to just talk to you any kind of way. Then you find yourself in a conflict with them. It's different. Yeah, it really is.
Are the drugs bad in the shelter?
Oh yeah. The drugs in the shelters like the drugs on the streets.
No difference.
There's no difference. Either way you go, there's no difference. No difference nowhere. Especially because you get drugs in all kind of ways.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they you can be shook down, you be wound down. The wound down is just for the weapons.
Mm-hmm.
They tell you to take everything out your pocket. You can have the drugs in your pocket, and you still can take everything out your pocket, and they never know it's still there.
Because they don't know what it looks like, or what?
No, they're not making you turn your pockets inside and out.
Mm-hmm.
If they tell you to turn your pockets inside out.
So they just tell you take everything out your pockets, and you do that, you get winded, but you ain't never took the drugs out.
Exactly. So it gets in. A majority of them put it in the butt and bring it in.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they call suitcasing.
I heard somebody say one day, you know, how am I supposed to stop doing drugs when a drug dealer is at my bed or, you know, my dorm where I sleep?
That's true.
Mm.
That's true. It's a constant battle.
Mm-hmm.
It's a constant battle. You feel like that you're safe from drugs at the shelter,
mm-hmm.
in a shelter, but actually you're not.
Mm-hmm.
They brings it in. They brings it from the street. They brings the crack pipe in. They bring the needles in. You know, you walk into a bathroom, you see a man laid on the floor with a needle in his arm.
And these are things you've seen.
These are things that I've seen and still see.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this is something that you go through being in a homeless situation. You're going to see it all. You may see some that's in shelters for the right thing,
mm-hmm.
and then you have those that's there just to be there.
Mm-hmm.
You know, just to lay their head so they can go to work, get high.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a shelter now.
Mm-hmm.
It's laid back.
Mm-hmm.
They don't force you to get out.
Right.
If like South Carolina shelters, they make you leave.
They make you leave, like for the day.
From 8 in the morning to 4 in the evening. And you have to have a work verification paper.
Saying that you work.
Saying that you's out job hunting.
Okay.
If you don't have a job. But you can go into the hood. If you're cool with the guy, with one of the people that's running the store, they'll sign the paper for you. But actually, you just been in the hood getting high all day. Chasing cars.
And how do you, how much money can you really spend, you know, in a week on, you know, through a drug addiction?
Whoa. You can spend it. You can spend up to $1,000, $2,000 a day in it.
A day?
A day. If you can find the right area to panhandle or even to rob a person.
Mm-hmm.
Like I have done in Greenville, South Carolina. I used to stand outside the store.
Okay, so you used to stand outside the store.
And wait for the Mexicans to come out.
Uh-huh.
The Mexicans was one of the biggest licks that you can get.
Mm-hmm.
They kept money in their socks
mm-hmm.
and their shoes.
Mm-hmm.
You should stand outside the door and look through the store door and see where they pull their money out.
Mm-hmm.
When they come out the store, you either choke them or hit them.
Mm-hmm.
And then you go in their pockets. I mean,
all for, you know, to fill that need of drugs.
Just to get that drug.
Mm-hmm.
Just to get that addiction. That addiction was dangerous. You're still from a blind person.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you steal from your mama, you steal from your daddy. Addiction has no character of respect
mm-hmm.
of who you get it from.
Mm-hmm.
Once you get that addiction, take that first hit, it starts right then.
Mm-hmm.
You on the chase all.
That's when your craving starts, your homelessness starts, everything.
Yes, that's when it starts. Because I burned many bridges
mm-hmm.
behind that crack cocaine. This is why I'm here today is because I burned bridges.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but it's one thing I did do before my mama passed.
Okay.
I apologized to her for all the wrongs that I done.
Uh-huh.
For the things that I said, for what I took from her, everything.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't bury my mama with a burden. I buried my mama with joy.
Mm-hmm.
because she forgave me for what I have done because I went to her and made amends with her. I didn't take it as hard as my other siblings did because they didn't apologize. I apologized.
And that was like a weight lifted off your shoulders.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. And I felt peace then. I had joy.
And the fact that she forgave you.
And she forgave me. That was the biggest thing. She forgave me before she closed her eyes. And my siblings, they just couldn't stand me. Because I don't care what I done, my mother will always bring me back. Bring me back. I mean, one time I was going to go to court. My mama took out a eviction notice. I was going to court, and I thought about it. I said, I look like a fool sitting in front of these white people arguing with my mama about her home, something she worked hard for to get. I said, I'll be a damn fool. I said, I'll be a fool sitting in front of these white people arguing with her. I left. I went to Greenville, South Carolina. I left. She was in a little town called Oconee.
Okay.
And Greenville's like 50 miles away. I left. So there's no way I'm going to go and argue, fight with my mom about her stuff. That was crazy. So
what would you say to anybody like who, is in that same situation? Like, if you could tell, the 12-year-old, 14-year-old you, what would you tell them?
Listen to your parents. Pick your friends wisely. Don't be ashamed or afraid to talk to your parents about anything that's on your mind or what you're going through. Don't take your personal problems to anyone else but your parents. Because a person you think is there for you, they ain't there for you like your mother and father is. On the outside, people would tell you something or be like, oh, just smoke that joint, you'll be all right. Don't do it. Don't listen to the rap music. Don't get caught up with it. Stay in school. Something that I wish I should have done. We stay in school.
So what would you say to the people who, don't come from a good household but are trying to fill that void, whether it's trauma or, trauma, pain, what would you tell them?
Seek mental health treatment.
Talk to somebody?
Go to mental health to talk to somebody. Something I should have did in my life. Maybe a lot of wrongness that I have done wouldn't be there. I really believe that. Talk to mental health.
I'm a big fan that a lot of times things start in your childhood. They start in your childhood and, you don't know who to turn to, or you turn to the wrong person. And that's kind of where it starts. You start to look up to people who aren't worthy of being looked up to. And that kind of starts, the first step. And then you get so far into it that it's kind of hard to turn back. Because not only is it, now that you've done it, but, you become, accustomed to it. And it becomes comfortable to you.
Yes, it does. It does. That's what happened to me. I really had no one that I could turn to talk but the streets. I turned to my mama to try to talk to her, but I couldn't. At the age of 14, 13, I ran away from home because my mother's boyfriend used to beat me so bad and draw blood from him. I ran away from home, so I had nowhere to go but to the streets. Nowhere to go but to drug dealers.
And it seems like no matter who you are, what you're going through the streets are accepting of anybody.
Yes. Yeah, it will accept anybody. I don't care who you is, what you are. I don't care what side of the fence you come from. You are accepted in them streets. As long as if you got money, if you got something, you accepted. I never panhandled. I ain't never done that. But I have robbed people, Mexican mainly, to get my addiction.
Now, so what would you say, like, what are you now that you've you lived your life and it's and you're perfectly fine. I can block that out. But now that you've lived your life, what would you say you're most proud of now? Like, you know, what gives you the most joy now?
Peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Able to have a relationship with my sons.
Mm-hmm.
Even though I still fight a battle.
Mm-hmm.
But I do have joy now that I'm able to talk to my sons more than what I used to.
Mm-hmm.
My sibling, the one that introduced me to the drug life,
Mm-hmm.
he do allow me to come and stay at his house when I do go home.
Mm-hmm.
You know, my nieces and nephews, my grandkids give me my joy and peace. I have about 13 of them.
Uh-huh.
And they give me my joy and peace.
You know, what's a blessing about, you know, grandkids is like a lot of times when they see you, you just their grandfather, you know, outside of anything you've done or did or anything like that.
Yes, yes. My grandkids, they don't know about my addiction yet
Mm-hmm.
because I haven't sat them down and talked to them.
Mm-hmm.
They don't know about the addiction. They just see me as Papa.
Mm-hmm.
That's all they see is Papa. My nieces and nephew, the younger ones,
Mm-hmm.
they hear, but they don't believe because I don't go around them high or I didn't do anything out of unordinary around them.
Mm-hmm.
But when I go home, that's my peace.
Mm.
That's my joy. That's my joy. And over the years of using the drugs, I have abused my body.
Mm-hmm.
My arteries around my heart is bad from the drugs.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it pays off in a bad way.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because the drugs does shut down parts of your body.
Mm-hmm.
It messes up your kidney. It does something to you.
Mm-hmm.
It really do. You just fight.
So, what would you say is next for you? What are you looking forward to? You know, going forward. Like, what are you most looking forward to?
My own place.
So it's getting out of homelessness.
Getting out of homelessness. Being able to keep it.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to keep a peace of mind with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was successful one time in my addiction. I moved in with this lady.
Mm-hmm.
She had 3 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And they depended on me, and that made me feel wanted. That made me feel like a person. You know, that made me feel more like a man now.
Mm-hmm. You felt like it seemed like you felt like you had a place. Like you felt like you had people depending on you.
Yeah.
You know, you had responsibilities. You felt included instead of excluded.
Yes, exactly.
You know, it seems like you had like a purpose. Like, you know, I have a role here.
Yes, yeah, exactly the way I felt. Because I used to, in the morning times, I get up for work, I make sure all the kids was up,
Mm-hmm.
you know, get dressed for school, send them off to school. I was doing construction work, concrete finishing.
Mm-hmm.
I would work 10, 12, 14 hours a day.
Mm-hmm.
Come on, make sure they done ate, make sure they done their homework. You know, if Fridays come, they needed stuff for school, I make sure they got it.
Mm-hmm.
Sneakers, I felt good.
Mm-hmm.
It took the addiction slap out of my way.
Mm-hmm.
I felt real good. Until the pain pills.
Mm.
Went from crack cocaine to pain pills.
Mm.
It's like, wait a minute. So I left.
And you know, so you say crack cocaine. You know, first time you try it, it's, you know, you're instantly different. The pain pills, is it the same way? Or does it sneak up on you?
Pain pill sneaks up on you.
Uh-huh.
The crack cocaine hits you right off the top.
Mm-hmm.
Because when you take that first hit of that crack cocaine, it puts you into a high that you never felt. And then you're like, damn, I want to feel that again.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking for that same high, but you never get it. You just keep looking, keep searching, keep searching. The pain pills is totally different. It sneaks up on you. it sneaks up on you worse. You find yourself popping more pills than what you realize.
What would you say is harder to quit?
The cocaine, the pain pills. I quit the pain pill with no problem.
But you had reached a point where it had snuck up on you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I left the family that I was with. I moved into my own spot. I had quit working construction work, and I went to working at an automotive plant. Doing real good because I didn't affiliate myself with those that were still using. I didn't go to the streets. I had my own place, so I had to pay bills. So
right. That responsibilities, those, that place of, I got a purpose, I got things I got to take care of.
Yeah. When I left that family, that responsibility was still in me. And I felt good about it. Until I got laid off from that job at the automotive plant. And then right back out to the streets. Right back out to the streets. Couldn't. And I'm 53. I've been fighting this drug addiction all my life. All my life. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired.
Well, I mean, I think, I think you speak pretty candidly about, your history, but it's like, again, it looks as if you got a lot of things to look forward to. You got grandkids, nieces and nephews. You want to get out of this homelessness situation, sustain your own and have your own. And I think that's really big. I think a lot of times we use alcohol and drugs to fill voids in our life, whether it's pain or just not a sense of purpose or, not feeling like, we have a place where people care about us.
Worthy.
Yeah, facts. Worthy.
You don't feel worthy, so you turn to drugs, alcohol, homosexualism, prostitution. You turn to some type of support, and not knowing that the right support is.
And you've seen drugs turn people into prostitution and things.
Oh yeah, I seen them turn to prostitution. I seen them turn them gay. I seen so-called men to be thugs, jump in and out of cars with other men just to get that cocaine. And I thank God that I never done it. I was too strong for that issue because I always kept a hustle skill about me. I can hustle. I go out and I hustle up something in a minute and sell it.
Or you always, you had that skill. If I need it, I can find a way to get it.
Yeah.
Or I'm going to find a way to get it.
I'm going to get it. I'm going to find me a way to get it. I'm not going to sell myself to nobody for it. I'm not going to do no tricks for it.
And did you did you pray like during these times, like when you were going through it or whatever the case is, or did it seem like everything was just like a blur, like you was just waking up and going to sleep, doing drugs, waking up, going to sleep, or was it times where you just like you prayed or anything like that?
Some days I did, some days I didn't.
Because I think it's interesting. A lot of times, as we work to get better in our faith and things like that. I'm not sure what everybody believes, but I think the blessing of God, though, is like, you don't have to be perfect. He'll visit you, in the slums of the slums, in the shelter, behind that building, or while you doing drugs. And I think the benefit to it is the fact of when you have that void in your life, it allows him to come in and fill a void that you have.
I believe in God. I believe in Jesus. Because the things that I have done to drug dealers, I should have been dead. I mean, drug dealers done picked up a package, big boy package, $500 package. You can turn it to $1,000. I done took it from him. I was in Greenville, South Carolina, and this drug dealer, I moved this drug dealer into my apartment, and I fed him. I gave him my bed. I slept in a chair. So he had rented a room right across the parkway from me. Oh, he was in there changing the linen one day, and a big bag of crack was on the bed. $500 pack. I done took it.
Mm-hmm.
I done took it. I didn't. I mean,
and it was gone.
It was gone.
Gone.
It was gone. $500 for crack that I could have made $1,500 off of it. But instead, I smoked it up, shared it with my peoples. And
so how do you go about finding it? Like, let's say how do, like, let's say you come to the shelter, like, and you want drugs. How do you find it? Like, how do people do that? Is it? I mean, I guess from the outside looking in, you would think it'd be difficult, but it must not be as difficult as.
It's not. Addicts know addicts.
That's interesting. Addicts know addicts.
Addicts know addicts. If you're an addict, and I look at you, your demeanor.
You recognize stuff.
You recognize it.
Okay,
and I'm a very observational person.
Addicts know addicts.
Addicts know addicts. And it's just there. It's like the little area. You could just, me as being a street person, I can go in any hood and fit. I can go in any drug hood and fit in. And people be like, how do you do that? Coming from the city, and I guess to who I am, laid back, quiet person, I fit in.
Addicts, no addicts.
I fit into any hood I go into, I fit right in.
I heard something to say, and again, it's kind of, it's a blessing that you are even here, to have this story and, to share your story and everything like that. But I heard something the other day that, I really thought was interesting. And it's just like, I thought about it when you were speaking about like how you're grateful to still be here. Oh, yeah. And I heard what I heard was, I forget who said it, maybe Steve Harvey, but he was like, justice is when you get what you deserve. Mercy is when you don't get what you deserve. But God's grace is when you get more than you deserve.
That makes a lot of sense.
And I felt that it's just like, for you to do what you did and live your life and see the things you've seen to still be here, to speak about your kids and your grandkids and have something to look forward to after all that. Like that's a blessing. And sometimes it's a blessing just to still be here.
It is. It's a blessing every morning to wake up and you still here. Because a lot of people don't wake up to a blessing. It's, while we was talking about the drug addiction, the drug dealer that I robbed, he came to my apartment. And I had just fried me some bologna and some potatoes. But I knew he was coming. I had a coffee cup full of sugar, and I poured it in the grease. I turned the grease up real high and started just
stirring
the grease and sugar. It's popping. Now I got burns on my arm. It's popping. So when he came into my house, my little room, I'm looking at him the whole time. I'm looking at him. I ain't take my eyes off of him. He seen death. He seen death. He saw that either he was going to kill me or I was going to kill him. He walked out. And he was a dangerous drug dealer. Very dangerous. He had just put a person in the hospital in a coma. Beat him to death. This guy was very dangerous. Very dangerous. Then I did it to another drug dealer. I robbed. I wanted it. I didn't care who he was. I'm getting it. That's how that addiction was. I robbed drug dealers. I didn't care. I played with my life. That drug will make you play with your life.
And again, it goes back to you saying you didn't feel worthy, so it was you felt it was worth to be played with because you didn't feel worthy at the time.
Exactly. I didn't feel like nobody cared. None of the family members cared. Some days today I still feel that way. I still feel that way, but I have a better route that I take instead of running to the streets.
Yeah.
I go lay down, or I'll come and talk to somebody. I'll come and aggravate you.
Yeah, and listen.
But the goals that I'm looking for is being successful of maintaining my own for the period of time that I do have left on earth.
Mm-hmm. Well, I do want to say, I appreciate you sharing your story. I think more people need to hear this, especially because there are kids that are getting ready to go through the same thing at the same age, experiencing that same trauma. Is there anything you want to say, before I let you go?
Stay focused.
Mm-hmm.
Believe in whoever your higher power is. Believe. Talk more to your parents. Talk more to your grandmother, somebody besides the streets. Get your education and further yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, we want to thank y'all for listening in today. I appreciate Jersey coming through to tell his story. Definitely look forward to next week's episode. And again, thank you for everything. Thanks again for listening in to the Speak Your Peace podcast. Again, I am your host, Kaleem Slayton. Be sure to follow us on Instagram at __Speak Your Peace.